This is All Grit.
Hosted by Animation Tanya. Today on the podcast, we are in conversation with Radha Amalraj, who is currently the head of business partnerships for Facebook in APAC. Radha has previously worked at Amazon, Google, and Twitter, where she was responsible for setting and scaling up their digital businesses. A dynamic leader, Radha shares with us her experiences during her MBA at IIM Koikor and the incredible professional life she has built for herself since.
Good morning, Radha. Thank you for giving your time. It is always a pleasure to host an alum of IMK.
Well, it's my absolute pleasure to talk to both of you. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
It's great to have you here. To start off, we'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your professional journey so far, and briefly describe it for us and our listeners.
Absolutely. So I'll start with my time at IMK. I graduated from IMK post finishing my engineering in 2008. And I had a brief stint before I joined IMK in the corporate world. And since then, I've been in corporate in various roles. And I'm happy to talk to you and tell you more about what a journey it's been. Lots of learnings, lots of failures. But when I look back, it is something that I'm quite happy and proud of.
So when we were planning for this interview, we went through your profile and everything, and we couldn't like pinpoint as to okay, this is the boundary of the discussion because your experience is so vast, right? And you're currently working at Facebook as the head of APAC business partnership. But taking you on a walk back into memory lane 15 years ago, you started your journey here at IMK when you took the decision to pursue your MBA just after your engineering. Could you tell us what prompted that decision?
I would love to give you a very intelligent answer and say that I had a vision that I would, go and rock the corporate world, and that's how I decided to go for an MBA. But the reality was, 15 years back, things were very different, and I was just academically very good, and I made my decision based on elimination, where I decided that I figured out that a technical career might not be the most exciting journey for me, and thereby I decided that probably an MBA would be a good bet. And I happened to also see the average salaries for IIM MBAs were 5 times as much as what engineering grads got, and there my decision happened. And I really hope that your decision making and over the years things have become a lot more streamlined. And I hope that now folks are looking at their career aspirations and their goals to make an important decision like this.
I think in the end, anybody who does MBA is just searching for their purpose as to what they're supposed to do and some sort of meaning in their professional careers. And apart from the monetary gains which the degree brings, right? And just like that, you were a fresher when you entered your business school. What notions academically did you carry? Did you have this in mind that you will do marketing or consulting or general management, or like you were completely blank when you came to the college?
I was completely blank when I came for my MBA. My aspiration primarily was that I should get through the 2 years where I would be, studying along with the brightest minds from the country who had such stellar backgrounds. And also, I had this in my mind. I had an image that I would be managing people. So it felt more like a general management career track would be probably in line with what I wanted. I know it sounds super vague, but this is exactly what I had in mind when I started my MBA because I had no real experience in corporate, and thereby I decided that I would go in with an explorer mindset. I just wanted to and there were lots of people in the batch who came with a lot of experience. I did try to learn from them and get an understanding of from their experiences of what to expect in the real corporate world. And from a specialization standpoint, I decided to go for strategy, marketing, and human resources because I felt like these were all going to help me in being a good general management professional.
All right, so I think it's been a long journey since your MBA, and you have had an exciting career trajectory where you've been a part of, various organizations in several capacities, from commercial roles where you've run business-sized hundreds of millions to being a startup founder to managing, diverse functions like strategy, marketing, product management, as well as operations. So we would love for you to tell us, how did these transitions come about? How did you go about them?
I would say a lot of this has to do with chances and choices. the biggest choice I made was to be a part of the online industry, because early on in my career, I saw the potential of internet to transform lives. And I got really excited by that. And since then, for over 10 years, I've been associated with various online companies and solving for different challenges within and outside of those organizations. In terms of roles, I would say it was a mix of chance and choice, where a lot of it was what came to me, and I tried to make the most of whatever opportunities came, and I tried to understand those roles and evaluate them on two parameters. One, were they really exciting for me, and did I see a potential for these to really make me very market friendly for future, and did they play to my strengths? So excitement, market friendliness, and strengths were the filters I used to zero in on the next opportunity for me to sink my teeth into. And yeah, it's been exciting to transit through various diverse stints, and it's been a lot of excitement and learning.
I'm sure, but I think one of the things that both of us are really interested in knowing, and I'm sure our listeners will be interested in knowing, is that how did you manage the shift in work cultures and context to deliver in your role transitions?
That's a good question. I think each role and organization brought with it a new set of challenges, nuances in terms of the cultural context and people dynamics. And what I did was, I think, really go with an open mind and not go with any preconceived notions that, okay, because I've worked with different online companies, I know what to expect, or go with my biases about my understanding of the role or what to expect. I think each time I try to go in with an open mind, have the humility of a person who's really willing to jump in and learn, and also have that confidence that I am somebody who's done well in going into ambiguous new situations and having emerged pretty successfully. So I would say these two, seemingly contradictory feelings of humility and confidence really helped me, brace through every new situation, every challenge very successfully.
Now, speaking of transitions, you joined Facebook this year as the head of APAC business partnerships, right? Where you manage advertisers and publishers, their partnerships and integrity. No, so this is a profile which is miles away from any role which you had in your previous organizations. So, what made you take this risky proposition? Because you could have easily gone into any role which you are already doing, like a corporate development role, right, and still be successful.
So when this opportunity came to me, I was just super excited by what it was, which is to be a part of Facebook, which is what it is, one of the best employers and a trendsetter in the social media and having a transformative impact on the world, and being a part of trust and safety, which after Cambridge Analytica scandal has been one of the biggest focus areas for Facebook, so as to protect the users as well as the advertisers on the platform and offer them a safe and trusted experience. So with this context in mind, I could tell that this was a challenge that was very, very crucial for the world at large and something that I would love to be a part of. And what I knew I brought to the table where that, as I told you earlier, I had a good track record of getting into ambiguous, challenging situations and kind of doing a good job. And I also understood online companies very well. Having been a part of so many different online companies, I understand the culture. I understand broadly what to expect and how to, get into a new business and set it up for success. And of course, there were lots of new aspects to the role. Trust and safety is a fairly niche domain. It's a specialized domain that I had to learn entirely from scratch. And that did take a lot of energy. And I'm so glad took the risk, and it's worked out very well.
Right. And another star in your career journey has been your startup that you founded last year, which is Karma Tech. So could you share some of the challenges that you experienced building a business from scratch all on your own? And that said, you've had a considerable experience helping existing businesses scale up in the corporate setup. Was How was that different, and what are the new challenges that you saw when you started a company of your own?
I think my startup experience was a different ball game, a completely different ball game compared to whatever else I have done in my career so far. I had this notion that because I had built so many businesses in various organizations, it would be something that I should be able to do fairly easily. But I was wrong, and how? It felt like I was jumping out of a 20th story building without any harness. It was a huge leveler, and it was just an eye-opening experience to see how much of blood and sweat and conviction a startup requires. I think it felt like, in addition to all the numerous things and the hard work that a startup requires, the biggest battle for me was really fighting with myself and telling myself every day that I'll be able to do this. uh, I could not pursue it, and for long because of certain personal considerations. And I have gotten back to corporate by taking up this role with Facebook. But it is one of the journeys in my career and life that has been one of the biggest learning experiences of my life.
When we look at your career trajectory and your whole journey, we see these two worlds are present prominently. We have big companies like Facebook, Google, Amazon, Twitter. You have worked for them, and as well as internet companies in India like Droom, IndiaMart, and your own company Karmatech. Right. So, what would be your advice for our listeners who are starting their career in tech?
So there's a saying that goes, high tide raises all boats. I would say that's really true when anyone considers a career in tech. Tech is just such a fast growing industry, and we can all see how tech is, just uncovering one opportunity after the other. And in a fast growing industry like tech, it is bound to happen that whosoever is able to join the industry and is able to stay on is going to see a huge leap in their career trajectories. And I would say the skills required for being successful in tech is fairly similar to the core skills required to be successful in general in any corporate environment, in terms of, let's say, the people skills, organizational skills, and problem solving capabilities, to name a few. But if I were to pick a couple of things that are very unique to tech that are required for success, I would say the biggest thing is a constant learning mindset, because tech is just such a constantly evolving industry that it requires one to be willing to, change the paradigm and constantly evolve with the changing industry dynamics and the organization's models. Number two aspect I would say is, thereby linked to the first one, a lot of comfort with ambiguity, because tech is a very new industry with constantly changing paradigms, and what it means internally is that things are constantly shifting, and there are no answers, and a lot of things are happening for the first time. So there's really not a lot of precedents and manuals to look at to get the answers for, and a lot of places require decisions to be made with very limited information, so that requires huge comfort with dealing with ambiguity. And the last aspect I would say is, being able to have an open mindset and work in a non-hierarchical environment, which can be difficult, given especially for us folks who come with great qualifications, to go into an environment where an 18-year-old coder can come in and ask tough questions, and to kind of really open one's eyes and see what an open environment looks like, and to be able to succeed in that, I think calls for a constant reminder to keep an open mind and really see things for what they are.
As an extension to that, I also wanted to ask, what were your biggest learnings in the early years of your career, which set the foundations for your future success?
I had this incident in one of the first few projects I had in my first job at NIIT, where I was on a project where I think in my first few weeks, I was given this task that you have to call up about 2,500 customers of NIIT who signed up and who were dissatisfied customers who decided to not come back after trying out NIIT courses. So I became a one-person call center, and I had to call up all of these guys. Like, I had a week to complete this exercise. So where I had to call up angry customers and listen to them, giving me a earful, more than a earful. And it was a true leveler for me. It was such a humbling experience where I understood where I stood in the corporate world. Because when I joined for my first job, because I had gone for my MBA as a fresher, I did not know what to expect. So I went in with a sense of entitlement and, thinking that I was going to be the star who's going to rock the corporate world. And I figured, right after calling 2,500 people, that I'm nobody and my degree means nothing. And I'm as good as what I deliver on a day-to-day basis to the organization. No matter what, credentials I bring, if I can truly deliver something valuable for the organization, I'll get the respect of everyone around me and I can thrive and survive. If not, nothing about my historical credentials make any difference. So I would say that was really one of the best learnings I've had. And many times it's very easy to, get trapped in one's successes and experiences. And it's constantly helped me to stay grounded and look for creating value every single day at work.
That's incredible. And I think that's kind of set the pace for the rest of your career, right? And now, one of the things which I guess I also deal with on a daily basis almost here at IMK is this talk about diversity within organizations, about women leaders, etc. So, and even though the conversation and dialogue has become very common, I still see women around me making very conservative choices in their careers, ahead in their lives or at the beginning as well. And when we look at you from the outside and listening to you so far, you've made choices which are far from conservative. You've always sought to evolve yourself, move your places, organizations, roles, and at a constant rate. So what drives that, and what would your advice be for women who are starting out young in their careers?
I would say three things have really helped me throughout my career. And I would probably offer that to all the young women out there who are looking to make their mark in the corporate world. Number one, life is unfair. And there would be lots of circumstances where you would feel like you're being unjustly treated, where, there are lots of prejudices and you're paying a price for that. Deal with it. Have a protagonist mindset. By being a victim, by pointing out to what's wrong around, you're not going to get anywhere. Accept it. That's a reality. And a lot of us face unfair situations, but it's really in your hands to take that. I know it's super hard, and I've faced so many of those in my career. But my invitation to you is have a protagonist mindset and see it for what it is and go and do your stuff. Give yourself the liberty to be badass. The second thing is that men and women are equal but different. I would urge all of you to thrive in the differences that you bring to the table, because there is a tendency for lots of women. Even when I joined the corporate world, I thought being an alpha male was the way to succeed. And some of my mentors made me realize that my traits were different, and what I brought to the table as strengths were very different from my male colleagues. And I had to learn to nurture those and make them my biggest strengths. So, and I would say that today, in today's corporate environment, all of those skills are really valued. The natural strengths that you as women bring to the table, be it in terms of driving collaboration, bringing people together, and multitasking, or offering that psychological safety, and really offering the empathy and EQ that work environment requires. So thrive in your differences and be proud of the unique value that you bring to the table. And the final aspect I want to highlight to all of you is something that Sheryl Sandberg points out in her book, Lean In. She talks about a lot of good things, and I would really encourage all of you to go have a look at that book. She talks about how women don't ask, and how women always take a step back and don't give them the right to ask for whatever they deserve. It's something that young girls are taught early on in their lives, that good girls do not, push for things, good girls are not aggressive, and good girls do not question things. And, that behavior is ingrained in us. So a lot of us do not ask for things that even we rightfully deserve. And she gives the example of how a lot of women, once they go the family way, once they start thinking of having children, they automatically start taking a step back from their corporate careers, and they feel like they'll not be able to compete with others, and that they'll get left behind. So what they end up doing is they automatically get left behind because they feel that it's going to happen. So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. She also talks about how a lot of women do not negotiate well. Like, there's so many studies that show that women always, on an average, get underpaid because they do not ask for their rightful share. So my advice to all of you would be to go and ask. Even if you naturally feel like you should not ask, give yourself that one final nudge to go and ask for things.
Just to complete the circle, can you share one of the instances where a challenge was in front of you, something happened in the organization, and how you came through?
I have so many examples that are flashing in my mind, but I'll pick one that's very closely tied to my last point, which was about asking. Uh, I have always been a person who's been very hesitant to ask for things. I felt like my work would speak for itself and it would be beneath my dignity to go and ask. I think a lot of it had to do with the societal conditioning and the upbringing I had, where it was fed into me that you do not ask for things. And it was also sort of the gender societal conditioning that played a part. Over time, I've trained myself to be unapologetic about asking. Even if I have been unclear about if I should ask or not, I always give myself the push to go and ask rather than not ask. Example, let's say when I negotiated for any of my recent jobs for the salaries. Uh, I think early on in my career, constantly the pattern was that I was underpaid compared to my colleagues because I did not ask enough. And for me, like, I actually thought I asked, but the extent to which I asked was clearly insufficient. And I had no way of knowing that until I saw the data consistently that I wasn't doing enough. So I started making myself really uncomfortable, and I would go out of my way to start negotiating for, the packages, job packages, and data suggests that probably now I'm on par, and it's been so difficult for me to do that. But now I can see that I'm making progress. So yeah, I would say until it becomes a habit, it's good to really force yourself to do certain things which are necessary.
Okay, so again, if we go back to the past to your MBA, if there was something which you could do differently in your college, in IMK, in our college, what would you do?
One thing I would have done differently during my MBA days is definitely have a lot more fun. But on a serious note, I think one thing I would have done a lot more of is to use the platform and really build the skills that matter in the corporate world. Really focus on the various opportunities that exist in a diverse campus like ours, and build, organizational skills, people skills, and real life tangible skills that truly matter in life and career. Uh, I'm so proud of what both of you, Animesh and Tanya, are doing with AllGrit. It's fantastic to see folks from my alma mater do such a great job of creating this initiative and platform to bring in the right perspectives that's going to help so many folks from IMK. And I would have loved to do more of these during my college days.
Thank you for that. Now, there are a lot of facets to your career, but if you were to capture the whole experience into one funda and present it for us and our listeners, what would that be?
I would say evolution is the name of the game. Charles Darwin was a very smart man. It's all about constantly evolving and constantly living up to the opportunities that your career throws at you. And if it's not throwing those opportunities at you, then seeking those opportunities and making it your mission to evolve constantly and get to be the best version of yourself that you can be in your career.
Now, coming to the heart of the piece, what was the hardest decision you ever had to take?
I've had many difficult circumstances at work. I think every switch of mine, letting go of all the equity I had built and, kind of stepping into a new context, starting from scratch and, venturing into a different role was quite challenging. I've also had many challenges in terms of, making decisions with limited information, which had huge implications for people and let's say letting go of people and shutting down businesses which are fairly big if you consider what it means for so many people and their livelihoods and their careers. With all of that said, the single biggest decision that I had made, which even when I look back now I get goosebumps, is deciding to start up on my own. It was a very difficult decision, and with startups, at any no point is easy to start up. And Naval Ravikant has this fabulous quote that I love. I love a lot of his quotes. He's one of the modern philosophers, and he comes up with really nice nuggets of wisdom. He says monthly salary is one of the biggest addictions ever. And it's so true. And as one gets used to it, it's just so hard to let go of that cushion and to venture out on one's own. And having worked for so many years, I finally made the decision because I could see that the opportunity cost was just going to increase with every passing day. and I had to do it. And there was never, the right time to do it. It was just about really understanding that, what's the opportunity cost if I don't do it. And I felt that the cost of not doing it would be bigger than anything else that I had to forego at that point. And that's how I made the decision. It was a very, very difficult decision. And even after I made the decision, I had many rethinks if I took the right decision or not. So yeah, it was one that really taught me a lot, and that really required me to build up my strengths and conviction to make the decision and carry forward with the decision.
All right, so we are at the end of the podcast, and before I ask you the last question, I want to thank you, Radha, for coming here and talking to us. It was incredible, almost 40 minutes of talking to you. Like I said in the middle of the podcast, when we look at your career from the outside, it is just this incredible career trajectory that all of us want for ourselves, and especially being in the MBA in the middle of this program. From being at the helm of these corporate journeys that you had to starting a startup of your own, and also being an angel investor in certain startups around the world, and also taking the step to evolve yourself at every moment and every role that you took up, and then doing it internationally as well with your roles at Google, Facebook, and Twitter as well. So it's incredible, and I think all of us are going to be quite inspired after listening to this podcast, and would definitely want to kind of follow in your footsteps. So thank you for that. Now we are at the end of the podcast, and I want to give you 2 minutes to tell us anything exciting that you've been up to personally or professionally, that you can share with us. And in the past few months, what have you been doing and what have you been up to?
Well, firstly, I want to thank both of you again for this incredible opportunity. IMK has played such a significant role in shaping me and my perspectives. And I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to do my small bit to give back my bit for our campus and all of you. And one of the things that's been really exciting for me this year is having a chance to work closely with startups as an advisor and as an angel investor. Given the fact that I could not pursue my startup, and given my deep interest in all things tech, I decided to figure out these mechanisms to work closely with various startups. And it's been so exciting to partner with so many dynamic founders and be a part of their vision to transform, our world at large through tech. And from that to actually solving day-to-day challenges along with them, because startup journey is never easy, and to have this ringside view and to have this opportunity to collaborate with them and has been really exciting this year. And I look forward to doing more of that going forward.